You know, I understand people might say by now, you're still harping on it. You and everybody else are still harping on this. Well, I think we all have a right to harp on it a little bit more. Especially for those of us, well, sorry about that. Especially for those of us, you know, that grew up on the show. You know, may have not watched it religiously like, you know, some people. But still, you know, it was something we watched as kids growing up, and that was, you know, JEM. JEM was basically part of the Big Four when it came to Hasbro. Transformers, G.I. Joe, and My Little Pony. Now, 3 of the 4 got movies. 2 theatrically, 1 originally theatrically, then became a direct-to-video television release due to some editing and production deals. But did you know that around this time, Christy Marx had already pinned out a JEM movie? That's right, she did. You see, around this time, I can't specifically say, but it was around the 2nd season, from what I've been able to look up and be reminded of. In fact, I printed it out somewhere. I don't know where I put the printout at. That Christy Marx had, around the 2nd season, pinned out a JEM script for a JEM movie, which no doubt I think she was hoping would get theatrical release, had it gotten any further. But unfortunately, thanks to the bombing in theaters of My Little Pony and Transformers, the JEM movie was scrapped. Which is why also G.I. Joe the movie, which was had already been made, it was in post-production, whatever, with last-minute edits because, you know, because originally in G.I. Joe the movie, you know, Duke was supposed to die. But because of the reaction that Hasbro got for killing off Optimus Prime in that movie, they changed it up to where Duke went into a coma. I mean, you even have Buzz Dixon in commentary on the Blu-ray DVD sets saying, no, Duke did not go in a coma, he died. And it's because of things like that G.I. Joe the movie didn't get the theatrical release it needed or was hoping for, and instead got a direct-to-video television release. Basically, Hasbro saying, look, we're not taking any more chances with another movie probably bombing at the box office. Which is why, even though she had basically come out with a basic outline script, you know, kind of like a rough draft, from what I understand, the plans to do a JEM movie, which no doubt would have been animated, were scrapped. That's right. The 1980s, here's what would have happened had things gone differently. Had the movies of Transformers and My Little Pony, even if they had bombed, if Hasbro at that time hadn't kind of chickened out a little bit and decided to just put G.I. Joe directly on video and, you know, and television, then the 1980s would have been a big year for them. Yeah, it would have been a big year because basically because had things gone right, had things gone as I'm pretty sure they were hoping, Hasbro would have had the Big Four, would have had all of the Big Four with feature films. And, you know, the way I look at it, they could have easily took JEM, let the movie be made, and could have done it the same way they could have released it the same way they did with G.I. Joe, as a direct-to-video television movie. They could have done that. True, they could have probably done a very limited release to at least say it was in the theaters, but they could have done what they did with G.I. Joe, and that is basically put it as a direct-to-video television release. But they didn't do that. Instead, out of fear of the fact that they might have another failure on their hands, they scrapped any plans for a movie. And the outline, the rough draft that Christy Marx had, was basically shelved indefinitely. Now, for some of you that may or may not know what the original JEM, the original outline and idea and plans for the JEM movie were, from what I understand, from what I have read, okay, and I'm sure a lot of people may agree with me on this because they probably have read the same thing, and they may correct me, and I hope some of you do correct me if I get stuff wrong. But the basic outline is you were having a new group come into the scene called the Mongrels. It was like a brother-sister, they were basically brother-sister twins. And they were going to be the primary villains, antagonists of the film, with help from Tech Rat. Because Tech Rat would have created something of a more muscular version of Synergy. Basically, the Mongrels' answer to Synergy. Now, here's what was interesting from what I've read. The Mongrels' machine and their music would have allowed them, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, would have allowed them to hypnotize people to do whatever they wanted. Or basically put people under their control to the point that people would do things that they wouldn't expect themselves to do. Or something of that matter. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. But here's what gets interesting. Because this new sound of the Mongrels would have a very hypnotic, controlling vibe to it. Would have a very hypnotic, controlling vibe to it. JEM would end up getting hypnotized. That's right. This thing would be so powerful. This hypnotic music of the Mongrels would be so powerful that JEM would fall under this influence. And part of the outline, according from what I've understood, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, JEM would inadvertently, because Rio would be the only one not hypnotized when this would happen. Ironically, Rio would be the only one not hypnotized. But JEM, under the hypnotic state, would inadvertently, unbeknownst to her, which I'm pretty sure she would finally find out later on, but unbeknownst to her in her hypnotic state, would inadvertently reveal to Rio that she and Rio's girlfriend, Jerica Benton, are one in the same, and she would probably end up showing him to kind of prove it. Now, that sounds interesting, right? Because now for any fans watching this, and probably have read this, heard about this information already, that sounds very interesting, right? I mean, basically, for a majority of this series, Rio had no idea Jerica and JEM were one and the same. So if you do a movie and you basically put the characters on this bigger platform, what better way for that to happen than on a platform of a feature film-like environment? Because these are the kind of things that need to happen in this kind of environment. Now, again, not much is known after this about what would have happened. Now, I don't know if Eric Raymond would have been involved, and he and the Misfits would also find out that JEM and Jericho are one and the same. I don't really know. I don't really know. But I do know that just from hearing this kind of stuff, and hearing that the fact that this would basically be a movie to where not only would Jim and the Holograms, along with Synergy and now Rio and whoever else, have to stop the mongrels, but they'd also have to find a way to, overcome this hypnotic sound of the mongrels' answer to Synergy. Now again, I don't know any more than what I've read, than what anybody else has read, but I do know this. I do know this. When I look at this outline by Christy Marx, and again, I know I sound like a bad record here, but correct me if I'm wrong, folks. But when I read this outline by Christy Marx of what the premise of the movie would have been, about what would have occurred, I think that would have made for a better movie today in live action with CGI effects, if you want to go in that direction, than what we're getting with the JEM movie that's being presented to us in October, than what the trailer has shown us. I think Christie's original JEM movie plans and outline would have been a better choice. They would have. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I even said in my first video about this, that you could, my first or second video about this, you could have taken the first 5 episodes of JEM and the Holograms, and which were basically the movie, which were basically, as Hasbro or Rhino announced it, is the movie of JEM, the animated movie. You could have took those 5 episodes, the first 5 episodes, the pilot movie, if you will, and that would have been a better live action. That would have been a better adaptation for the live action film than what you're getting. Basically overall, what I'm saying is that just by reading that outline from from what Christy Marx would originally have done, had the JEM movie, the animated movie, gotten off the ground back in the 80s, to me, that has a better story to it than what we're getting here. And I think anybody might agree. I mean, come on. Honestly, you would have had a lot of this would have been basically a movie. If you really wanted to end the series, like G.I. Joe the movie originally was supposed to end the series there. But it continued on when Deke acquired the rights to do it. If you were going to use the movie, if Christie's plans originally were to allow the movie to be the finale to the series, then this would have been a great finale. You have a new antagonist you got to beat, which has the power to hypnotically control people and make them do things unbeknownst to them. You would have had Jerica reveal herself as being both Jim and Jerica, one and the same, to not just her boyfriend, but to the rivals, the misfits, and to basically the person she took Starlight Music from, Eric Raymond. I mean, the possibilities were just endless of what could have been done with the movie. But again, unfortunately, this outline was thrown out the window. And any resemblance of what would have been in the movie got interpreted and adapted into the 2nd and 3rd seasons. Like with some of the personalities you get with the Stingers, some of those personality traits would have been what you would have seen with the Mongrels. So, it's just how do I put this? Just a good opportunity. It's just a good missed opportunity, in my opinion. And you know what? I may have not watched JEM that much when I was a kid, and if the movie would have been made, I may have not seen it, had it been become a realization. But I can say this: I have no doubt in my mind it probably would have broke the streak of bad animated films adapted from Hasbro's toy lines. It probably would have been the best one alongside Transformers. It probably would have been the one that critics actually took a liking to. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And now we got this to deal with in 2015. Again, as I've said before in the other videos, Hasbro better pray they have a hit on their hands, folks. They better. Because if they don't, they're going to feel it. And they're going to feel it big time. And it's not just Hasbro, it's going to be Universal. If Universal doesn't have a hit on their hands, Hasbro, in my opinion, is going to sever a lot of ties with them. And they're not going to trust them ever again. They just better pray and hope. So, again, Christy Marx' original JEM movie, original outline, script, whatever for a JEM movie, to me sounds a lot better, but was a golden opportunity. It was a missed golden opportunity. So, let me know what you guys think down below. Again, correct me if I'm wrong about anything I've said on what Christy Marx' original plans were for the JEM, for her JEM movie back in the 80s. Let me know down below, and I'll talk to you later. And if you want to get the taste of what we're getting in theaters, watch this.